Oi, this week we're going to be discussing trips, psychedelics, LSD, mushrooms. Actually, I lied, not LSD, just mushrooms. Polska, you did a trip. Tell us about it.
All right. So I'm still kind of recovering from it. It's not like how it used to be, man. Like, I did this Saturday night, and it's Monday evening now, and I'm still feeling the heat. So
Oh,
I'm not back to myself 100%. Like, I'm tired and shit from it. Obviously, it's out of my system, and I'm not fucking high anymore. But I'm just tired, man. Um, I was so active that day, and during the trip, like I walked around so much. So I wanted to do like a hero dose. So I did 5 grams,
hey.
um, which is decent, right? Like I haven't done it in a long time. So I'm like, I'll probably do five, see how it goes. And I had a buddy come with me. Um, and the thing is, I don't know this guy that well, right? And I forgot that when you're doing mushrooms, it's best to do them with people you're comfortable with and people you trust. And I don't know this guy that well, right? But I've hung out with him a couple of times, but it's mainly been like playing basketball with him, and it hasn't been like nothing. I don't know. We haven't had like a boys' night really, like maybe like once before. So it was kind of. I think you're gonna say something.
I was going to say, so essentially it was just a very superficial sort of relationship.
Yeah,
There wasn't much
exactly.
depth there. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Up until that point, exactly. Because in the past, I've only ever done mushrooms with like my good buddies, right? That I've known for years. So I've always felt really comfortable doing them, and I didn't realize how important that is. So we're in the middle of it, right? And we're in this park in Cali. If anyone's been to Cali, we were in San Antonio Park. Um, it's just like this really nice area, and there's a lot of like stone. What's it called? Like stairways, and there's a really old church there in the middle of the park as well. It's really nice to look at. And San Antonio is also on the side of this mountainous area of Cali because Cali's in a valley, but they built up a lot of Cali on the side of the mountains as well. And that's where San Antonio is situated. And behind the church, there's like this park area where stoners go to hang out, or people who are doing mushroom trips go to like hang out. That's like the spot. So that's where we were because we're sort of away from the people. And everything's good. Everything's going really well. Like I'm tripping out, having a great time, and just looking up at the sky, watching the clouds. You know how it is when things start to like sort of breathe and go like this. So I'm loving it, and I'm shooting a shit with Camilo, and we're having a great time. It gets dark, and we decide that we're gonna go check out like that church area where all the action is, right? To see what it would be like when we're being overstimulated. Because it's one thing to be, somewhat stimulated with nature, but then to like actually go out in public, it's like a completely different atmosphere when you're on mushrooms. So that's what we decided to do, just to see what it was like. And we get there, and because it's Easter weekend and it's Saturday night, it's packed, and there's like mad shit going on. Like it's crazy. It's super overwhelming, but I'm loving it at this point because I'm not at the peak of it yet. I thought I was, but I'll get to that part in a moment. And we get to this spot that's on the side of the church, and it looks like a really long driveway with quite like a steep incline. And there's a whole bunch of people in that area, and there's music playing. And what they're doing is that they're lugging up these milk crates, or just bringing up these milk crates, and these milk crates have this piece of foam in it, and then they sit on the milk crate and they slide down this hill, or they slide down like this driveway, right? So everyone's like lining up to do it, and like you pay, I think it was like $1, and you can go up and down like for a couple of minutes or something. And I'm like, yo, this looks mad fun. I'm like, yo, Camille, let's do it. He's like, you want to go slide down this fucking hill? I'm like, yeah, man, it looks mad fun. Like, let's do it. He's like, well, you go. I'll watch. Like, no, man, let's do this shit together. He said, no, I'm good. Like, it's going to fuck up my shoes. He's just come up with excuses. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll do it myself. So I get to the top and I sit in the crate and I slide down. And like, because of my weight, I got up to a decent speed and it was exhilarating, especially on the mushroom trip. So I'm like, fuck, I'm doing that again. So I go up and I sit down back on the crate. And it's so funny because you're just sitting on top of the crate. Like there's no wheels, there's no nothing. But because so many people have slid down this hill, it's like a thing that they do on a regular basis. It seems like the plastic from the crates has sort of come off and got stuck onto the concrete of that driveway. And it's become like more slippery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was plus the weight and and everything. So it was pretty dope. So anyways, I get back on the crate and I see this other dude around my age getting ready to go down too. And I turned to him like, yo, this is pretty sick, eh? And he gives me like this weird look. And I didn't notice that he was just waiting for his son that was like 4 years old that was coming to sit on his lap, right? And in that moment, I look around and I'm realizing, oh, fuck, it's all kids here. Like I'm the only adult doing this.
Yeah, dude.
So imagine what this dude was thinking, eh? When I told him, yo, this is pretty dope, eh? He's like, this is for fucking kids, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Welcome to Good Meals. I'm Reuben. I'm the founder and developer of Good Meals, and I'm here to introduce you to a smarter way to approach your diet. Forget the one-size-fits-all meal plans. Good Meals is about precision, personalization, and simplicity. It's not just a meal planner, it's a tool that adapts to you. Start by telling us about yourself. Your goals are unique, so should be your meal plan. Good Meals utilizes advanced AI to tailor every meal to your specific nutritional needs. Here's where it gets interesting. Our extensive database isn't just a collection of recipes, it's a culinary exploration. Whether you have specific dietary preferences or just what's available in your fridge, Good Meals finds the perfect recipe for you. And it's not just about variety. We focus on the nutritional value, ensuring that every bite takes you closer to your health goals. Join Good Meals today at goodmeals.health. It's not just about eating better, it's about revolutionizing the way you think about food. Because at Good Meals, every meal is a step towards a healthier, happier you.
And then right after that, we decided to go get something to eat. And then everything changed. Everything changed, dude. I thought Camilo was planning on robbing me. I thought he was planning on like on putting me in a situation where I was gonna get murdered. I suddenly lost trust in him, and I don't even know why. I couldn't even explain why. But we get to this one street, and it's called La Quinta, which is like 5th Street in Cali. And if anyone's been to Cali, they know like La Quinta has parts that are all right, but also there's parts where you're not supposed to go. Like nobody should be walking around some areas. But La Quinta it's a long street, but as soon as I heard him say, yeah, we're just gonna go down here, and we got closer to the street, I sort of recognized it, and I'm like, yo. And he's like, yeah, it's La Quinta. I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going there. I was scared. Like I was scared for my life. And I thought he was trying to put me in a position or something. Right. And then he had to talk like, yo, like you're tripping out, dude. Like everything's all right. We're going to go eat right over there. It's safe over here. And I was actually really scared. Like I felt like I was like, there's like mad fear in me. I haven't felt that scared before. So I'm like, fuck it. Like I must be tripping out. Let's just go. We went and I couldn't get it together after that. Like we sat down at the restaurant and I couldn't count my money. I couldn't order anything. I couldn't do anything. I told Camila, I'm like, yo, you're going to have to like do everything. Cause I can't even like think straight. And like the whole time we're sitting, I'm like, I'm like this, like I'm sweating. I'm freaking out inside. I'm scared. I'm nervous. Everything is like bothering me. Every 2 minutes, I told like, yo, Camilla, like, can we go outside for a second? We had to leave the restaurant like a couple of times so I could just get like my shit together. And I just couldn't get it together. And then finally we go back in and I couldn't even eat. Like the food came, I took one bite, I couldn't even swallow. I was trying to drink down the food. I'm like, fuck this, I can't even eat. So Camila ended up eating my food as well. Then we go to a park after, and he randomly runs into one of his buddies, right? And at this point, I'm starting to like recover a little bit. But as soon as like we ran into one of his buddies, I'm like, yo, is he setting me up? Like, is this guy gonna rob me? Is this guy gonna like hurt me or something? So I didn't know what was going on. Like, how did we just randomly meet one of his buddies like in the middle of the night, right? And his buddy passed me a beer, and I drank from it, and I was like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have drank that beer. I shouldn't have drank from it. Like, why did I drink that? And I'm thinking, like, did I see either of them drink from it? I'm like, fuck, no, I didn't. So I passed buddy back the beer. I'm like, yo, can you drink from it? And he's like, yo, why? What's up? I'm like, yo, can you just do me a favor? Please drink from it. And he's like, oh, and he understood me immediately because Camilo was already telling him like I was already fucking tripping out mad hard. So he was understanding where I was coming from. So he took like a couple of big gulps in front of me to like try and calm me down. And that was like probably the worst of it, man. It felt so fucking scary not being able to trust anybody or anything and being fearful for my life. And that was going on for a while. And it wasn't until we left all the people and we got to a place where there was low lighting and no noise and like no action going on, where I finally was able to like calm down. And then I started getting this feeling of bliss. I've had that before where I did mushrooms, where I went through such an emotional, stressful moment. And as soon as I overcame that stress, that emotional stress, I felt this euphoria, this bliss that I've never felt before. And I had that feeling again this time. And then I was able to like think more clearly and communicate more clearly, because when we were at the restaurant and we met up with this buddy, like I said, I wasn't even able to talk, explain. I just kept saying, I'm like, yo, I'm mad fucked up and I'm scared. All I could say was I'm mad fucked up and I'm mad scared. Like that's all I was able to say. And yeah, but finally when I overcame and I felt blissful, it was incredible. And then I started thinking about my family and my friends and decisions that I've been making lately. And I got to the conclusion that I'm making a lot of really good decisions in life. I'm sacrificing my family because I'm not with them, right? Like I'm living in a different country away from them. But it made me feel comfortable knowing that all my sacrifices are going to one day allude to something big, something that I'm looking for. Yeah. So I just felt like from that trip, what I gained made me feel that what I'm doing, I'm making the right decisions and I'm making the right sacrifices. And yeah, I'm sort of doing all the right things to try and get me to my next stage in life. Yeah.
Nice. Very good. So let's do a little bit of a timeline here, so that the listeners can understand. But also, I'm curious. So, like, what time did you start this process or this journey? What time did you drop your shrooms?
Okay. So we did the lemon technique. You know what the lemon technique is?
No.
All right. Lemon technique with shrooms is that you submerge. First of all, you grind up the shrooms. You get it as close to like a powder form as possible. It doesn't have to be, but you want to increase the surface area at which lemon juice is going to agitate the mushrooms.
Psilocybin?
Yeah, psilocybin. So it actually does some sort of digestive process when it's submersed in the lemon juice, in the pure lemon juice, and you leave it in there for around 25 minutes. And when you consume it, it's easier to digest. It hits you faster, and your high is heightened, like it's more intense. But the caveat is that it doesn't last as long. Yeah. So we did half the dose in lemon technique and the other half dose just normal to sort of balance.
Yeah, like you did a time release.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. I like this.
Exactly.
Bringing a bit of math and science in here. So yeah, what time did you do that?
Yeah. So at 3:40, yeah, it was like about 3:40 in the afternoon, we started eating the mushrooms on the way to get into the Uber. And we already had the lemon tech, like the mushroom tech thing, submersed in lemon juice in like a bottle. and we downed that in the Uber. So we did half. So I did about like 2.5 grams at 340. And then I did 2.5 grams with the lemon technique around like 4:10. Yeah, in the afternoon. And we started making our way back home around 10:30 at night. So it's about how long it lasted. It took about, with the lemon technique, takes about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour to kick in. But for like the full experience, I felt like it took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours before I was at that peak. And that might have been because I ate lunch 15 minutes before consuming the mushrooms as well.
Yeah, it just slowed the digestion down a bit.
Yeah, so there might have been a delay. So we were probably like pretty fucked up for like 4 or 5 hours. I was still feeling some of the residual heat when we were in the Uber on the way back, but I was already in bliss at that moment. And when you're in that blissful state, you can think a lot more clearly and you can make decisions as well. And you can sort of, do life again, In the blissful stage, you can call an Uber, right? But when I was in the paranoid, frantic, scared stage, I couldn't do anything. Yeah. Oh fuck! I'll never forget how scared I was, man. Fuck.
So it's interesting though, because like I know you're not the type of person to sort of get like that. But I think it does speak to the importance of setting and environment when you're doing these things. So like you did mention that like you knew that was a pretty sketchy area, and as soon as like you were kind of picking up on that, and then when you sort of realize like, oh shit, we're going down this street, like it could easily overwhelm, which sounds like that's probably sort of what happened. But it is fascinating, right? How like you can be having a great time, mad, happy, all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you start to change that environment, or you start to go somewhere where, you might have these associations with bad things or whatever, how dramatically that can influence your experience.
Absolutely. And even small environmental changes seem like huge changes when you're on mushrooms. Going from inside to outside, going from dark to light, or going from like a park area where there's little people to an area where there's lots of people. That was super overwhelming. It was really fun at first, but yeah, as soon as we got to that street, like everything sort of started changing for me. Yeah. Because it's uncomfortable being on that street when you're not on mushrooms, and because of the reputation. So
yeah. And it's just like, it plays into it because you are inebriated to some degree, right? Like there are, we spoke about this before about what psychedelics are actually doing, but they're sort of quieting down or shutting down or reducing the influence or effect of certain brain regions and parts of your cognition. And so like that coupled with going into an area that's, high volatility or, has these sort of unpredictability to it, can really stimulate that worry, like it can really cause you to panic about that, because within yourself you've got a sort of like a lower level of autonomy while you're influenced by the psilocybin. Like you're not your full capability, so to speak, because of the suppression of certain brain regions or senses. So let's go through. So you mentioned that was pretty scary. It does sound pretty scary. Not being able to eat or pay for your food is not the greatest. But there are those times when you do have the big trips where that is the case. Like you do lose the ability to do certain things. But after that, right? So you mentioned you left that area. Like what did you sort of do? You mentioned the blissful state. Like how long did that last for? What were some cool sort of things besides the obviously reflecting on the sacrifices and your decisions that you've been making? But that timeline. And then also just quickly, when you got back, was there anything you mentioned you were still pretty under the influence to some degree, but you were still vibing off that euphoria. What was that like?
Yeah, that that blissful stage, it lasts quite a long time. I find it probably lasts up until you go to bed. I felt like it lasted, for hours and hours and hours afterwards. But there's like a slow diminishing effect, right? Like you obviously have the most blissful is when you overcome that fear initially. And what did it for me is that I had to convince myself that Camilo is my friend and he's not going to put me in harm's way, right? Because I don't know him, but I knew him enough before that point that I could trust him. And once we left the restaurant, I kind of felt, okay, like he's not, if he was setting me up, there would have been something in that beer. There would have, something would have happened already. I don't think he's setting me up. And then we went to his grandma's house as well, because she lived by there. And he didn't even tell me we were going there. We just walk up to this house and he starts opening the door. I'm like, yo, where the fuck are we? He's like, oh, this is my grandma's house. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right. So I met his grandma and that really helped calm me down as well. Yeah. And just like that environment because the house that we went to was really nice. It was dope. Like it was really clean, really nice. His grandma was really sweet. She was really cute. And I was just talking to the grandma for a little bit. She didn't really speak too much because she's like really old. But just being in that atmosphere really calmed me down. No noise. So sorry, your question. Yeah, the blissful state. The blissful state is like, you know when you're at a beach and it's nighttime and there's no waves and you can just hear like the water kind of like just like sort of trickling in, but there's no waves like falling, just kind of coming in and out. And there's like the lightest breeze and the temperature is just perfect. You don't even notice the difference between your body heat and the actual temperature outside. It's like feeling the same. That's what it's like. It's like perfect peace. It's just like everything in your mind is, you're just free of it. You're just free of stresses, anxieties, worries. Everything is just calm and perfect. It's almost like, oh, it'd be dope if I could always feel this way, right? Like if I could always feel this way, this would be amazing for certain things. I don't know how motivated I would be if I always felt that way.
Yeah, not at all.
But it's like, dude, it's that. And then you just think really clearly about things. You can think about issues that maybe you've had with your family or your significant other or your ex, and you're just analyzing it from a very blissful state, and getting answers it's just easier because you're so calm and you just think about it so calmly. Like you're not, you don't get anxious thinking about some of these things or worried about it. So I think you're just able to analyze it from such a higher state of consciousness in a way, almost like a third person sort of way, or like your third eye sort of more analytical way. And you can clearly know in that moment, I did make the right decision there. Or I didn't make the right decision, but I know now what to do, sort of thing. And it's just like boom, 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 boom. And then it's all good. And then you just move on with it. And like, even the next day, I was like, yeah, it reinforced a lot of things I was thinking before. And that's not important, because it's that reinforcement that can really get you to overcome certain things. Because you can analyze certain situations you've been in and think, yeah, I think I did the right thing. Or if I didn't, I think I know how to go about it to fix it. But then when you have that reinforcement factor, it just makes it a little bit easier, maybe like 10, 20% easier. I would say.
So, like, sort of the state you were feeling, you're mentioning it as bliss, but another way you could think about it is you were in harmony with yourself, your environment, and what it feels like in the time, like is the greater universe, right? Like you just feel at one, and there's a certain clarity that washes over. Matt, interesting that you mentioned like you're able to see things, like the typical way people describe this is more objectively. But yeah, I don't. Based on what we've been learning, I don't know if that's the right terminology to use. But what I might say is, or maybe I'll ask you this: do you feel like that was kind of the ego death part, right? Like when you mentioned you could see things and they just made sense, or you see them from a higher perspective. That can sort of be like you're seeing it less biased. Like the ego typically biases the way that we interpret things or filters what we receive from our environment, so to speak, or what we pay attention to. So at that point, do you think that was where the ego was melting away, and that's where that bliss or that harmony came from?
Oh, Guy, great point, Guy. Yeah, great point. Because when you do psychedelics, there is a part of it that sort of kills your ego. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because if I didn't have sort of an ego death, what's going to happen is that I'm going to biasly side with decisions. I'm going to be analyzing some of my decisions and some of my behaviors in a biased way. But once that's taken away, you can see things more clearly. And that's probably where that calmingness comes from. When you're looking at decisions you've done and made and things that have impacted your life, and you don't get like stressed out about it, you can just analyze it more clearly and know what to do more clearly.
Yeah, or not even, maybe not even just analyze it. Maybe it's just, you can just know it, or it just clicks. It resonates, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's a better way to put it.
It's the fact you don't have to analyze it. Everything sort of aligns. And then you can see you can see things more clearly than what you typically would, because your ego is normally imposing itself or changing the way that you're thinking about this, or even the ego could be forcing you to try and analyze all of these things. Whereas when you're in that harmonic state or that bliss, it all just clicks. It all just slots. It fits into place, and it's partly because you're not receiving that biased filter, or you're not filtering things through that ego lens, which is biasing it and causing you to have to try and analyze everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. It also helped me make another decision. But I don't know if I should tell this story. I don't know. It might eat up a lot of time, actually, this story.
Save it for our Patreon. For those of you that like this we'll be opening a Patreon page where you can hear the in-depth story of Polska's breakthrough for a modest price of $999.99. You can have access to our Patreon.
That's USD, right?
That was in BTC.
Oh, damn. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
No, it's in IDIOT.
What's IDIOT?
That's our new token we're launching.
IDIO. Oh, IDIO, idiot. God damn. IDIOT. For some reason, when you said it, it sounded like 3 letters in my mind.
You're our perfect customer, sir. Sign up today.
IDIOT.
Yeah, that's the new hotness, dog. It's blowing up right now. Okay, I got a question for you. I want to know these two to 3 things. So you mentioned it's been a day or so since you've done this. What's one big takeaway or big learning that you've had? Just like, short one. One big learning you've had, one thing you might do differently, and we'll just leave it at that for the moment.
Like what? One big thing I might do differently in my life, or next time I do mushrooms?
It could be next time you do shrooms, or maybe based off something you experienced while doing this, what's something you might change. But like, I'll preface this and give you some time to think. So for me, I like to do these, I would call them, cognitive resets, I suppose. That's typically how I've used the psychedelics. And I like to do it because, ego can get out of control at times. It can be your greatest asset, but it can also be your greatest enemy. And I like to keep it in check in that regard, like, so instead of always having to sort of analyze myself or whatever, you can do a heroic dose and you can sort of do it all in a day, so to speak. You can go through and do a bit of, maybe call it house cleaning in one day. It does provide a different point of view, which can be beautiful if you get stuck in a point of view, right? Just to remember that there's always many different ways of viewing something. So yeah, I like to use it for that. Periodically throughout, the year, once or twice a year, maybe even 3 times, depending on the need. And what I always come out of, or not always, but it's the same general sort of thing that ends up happening is you will have these sorts of realizations, or you'll be able to change your perspective on certain things that you might have known were holding you back, but you didn't really necessarily know how to deal with or how to address it, kind of vibe. And then after doing the heroic dose, you free yourself of that. It's kind of like, a good way to sort of prune the dead branches, or to prune the branches that are inhibiting your future growth, right? So it's, like an analogy I like to use is, you've got a tree and it has its initial growth. Some of those branches become, less useful. They might die off. But if you keep them on the tree, it will constrain the amount of future growth that tree can have, because it's sort of spending resources, or resources are being taken up, or space is being taken up by things that aren't contributing to the future growth of that tree. They're actually constraining the future growth. And doing that heroic dose can be likened to pruning those dead branches, or the dead growth off that tree, making way for new growth and different future potentials. That's kind of like why I like to do it. But from your most recent experience, what was one big takeaway you took, and something that you might do differently next time based on your experience this time?
So the biggest lesson I learned, this is that long story. I'm trying to think of a way I could tell it quickly.
Okay, give us the TLDR.
Yeah, first I'll say, if I'm going to do it mushrooms again, I'm going to go to a place where I think it's away from more people, more secluded, more nature.
Private.
Yeah, more private. I just thought I thought I could handle it, because I've done mushrooms so many times, but I haven't done them in 5 years. So, but within that 5-year span, I did ayahuasca twice. But both times I did it was in like the perfect setting, with shamans in the jungle, the music, the smoke, everything that they do. So I didn't get like super scared. So that's,
setting matters a lot, right? Environment is really important.
And who I do it with. Like, I know I can do it with Camilo again, because like I went through with him, but I think it's super important to do it with someone who you've known for a while, Like,
so you don't have to go through that scared phase.
Yeah.
That was necessary for you, dude. Maybe that was part of the teaching, right? Like, maybe there was a lesson in there about you being possibly too trusting initially. Because you are a nice dude. You are pretty damn
too trusting
bro.
Sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
I am too trusting. Yeah. Okay. This is gonna sound kind of weird, but I need to be. I've been working on trying to be more upfront and direct with people, and this really showed me that I really need to lean on that a lot more, because I put myself in a situation again that I didn't think I was going to put myself in. So this is the long story. I'm going to try cut it short, but there's like details.
If you say it's a long story, motherfucker, it will be long.
No, bro, it's fucking long. I would love to tell you off the pod, maybe the whole thing, because it's just
just make it available on our Patreon
for $999 BTC. So, damn, this gets quite personal, but I'm gonna have to give you, there's some details I'm gonna have to not leave out, because I have to present it in a way where it's not biased to my perspective. I also have to try and bring in the perspective of the person that's involved. So a couple of years ago, I'm in Argentina, and my job fluctuates the amount of work that I get sometimes. And at that moment, when I was in Argentina, I was near Iguazu Falls. breathtaking. If anyone is ever in Argentina, you have to go to Iguazu and check out the Iguazu waterfall. It's unreal. Anyways, I'm there, and I just got paid, but it wasn't as much as I normally make because, like I said, my job fluctuates so much. So that month I was living on fucking eggs and the breakfast that my hostel had because I already paid to be at that hostel for a month because I was planning on staying there for a month in Iguazu, and every day I had breakfast in that hotel. So what I would do is I would just like go have breakfast there, stock up on food, and take it to my room, and I would have that for lunch, and then I would eat raw eggs for dinner because I didn't have anywhere to cook, right?
Whoa. Okay.
Bro, I did that for a fucking month, dude. And after 3 weeks of doing that, these Argentinian guys come in. It's this gay couple, and they're staying in the same room as me. They're the same age as me too, right? So they're noticing that what I'm doing, right? I'm not doing anything. Like I don't have any money to do anything. So I'm just going to the gym and eating raw eggs and shit, doubling up on breakfast. So they notice all this because we're sharing a room. And they're like, yo, bro, what? Uh-huh.
Were they like, yo, bro, did you want some sausage with your eggs?
So yeah, sorry that this initial part is already going long. It's really important that we have an understanding of who these guys are first. Anyways, so the one night they're like, dude, what's going on with you? You know what I mean? You're fucking eating raw eggs. What's going on? Like, you on a diet or what? And I told him, like, listen, dude, I'm waiting to get paid next month because I get paid monthly, and my last payment was fucking hurting because my job fluctuates sometimes. It was bad luck, and it's hard to work and travel, especially if you're not getting paid decently. So I told them the whole story, and they're like, "Fuck, well, why don't you come out to dinner with us?" I said, "Oh no, like maybe no, I appreciate it." They're like, "No, like no worries, man. I mean, no, like don't worry about it." And I didn't go out with them. But then the next day, because they stayed there for a week, they're like, "Listen, bro, you're coming out with us. Like, don't fucking worry about it." And I'm like, "All right." So I went out with them, and they bought me dinner. We went out to a club, and we were having mad fun. I could kind of tell that they both wanted to fuck me, but this is where like the problem in my head is, and where the mushroom trip sort of made me realize this about myself a little bit more, is that I like attention. If it's from a gay guy, even though I'm not sexually attracted to this gay guy, I still like the attention. It's fucking sick, but it's a reality. And so this attention that I'm getting them, sometimes the way they look at me or some of the things they say, or I'm like, yo, these guys are feeling me. Like, it's weird, but at the same time, like, yeah, I feel like a stud.
Yeah, definitely.
I ended up befriending these guys for a while, and we've known each other for a couple of years. And now I met up with them in Chile, and we opened up a hostel together in Chile. And this happened right before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, they were stuck in Argentina, and I was stuck in Chile with the hostel. But the hostel went, completely out of business because of the pandemic. So I invested some money into that hostel. They invested a lot of time into that hostel, right? And right around the same time, my ex-girlfriend came to visit me, and she didn't like them. And I got the feeling that they didn't really like her either. And
they'll fight over you, dog.
And at that moment, yeah, maybe, right? And at that moment, this is where, like, I'm trying to make the story fast, bro. I'm sorry. At that moment, there was already a lot of friction, and I don't mean like sexual friction, but I mean business relationship type of friction with them. That's the word, tension.
Yeah.
With them, because what ended up happening is that some of my behaviors For one, we had to share a bed for a while so we could have the other rooms available to customers. So we were sharing like a smaller room, and we had a queen size bed where 3 dudes were sleeping on together, 2 of which were a gay couple. And I was on that same bed, right? And we decided to do that so we would have the other rooms available. That was what was in my mind. But then looking back, what a terrible signal to be giving a gay couple. Like sharing a bed? I'm a fucking moron. Well, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, obviously.
What was?
No, well, I'm still an idiot. I'm just maybe less of an idiot. But I essentially invited them in some sort of
Indirect way.
indirect way, right? And they started behaving like a controlling boyfriend towards me, both of them. It was like having 2 boyfriends at once, and it got real fucking weird. And my ex-girlfriend, she noticed it too when she came to see me. So all of this was coming together at the same time. And I decided that I need to part ways with them because business with them was not easy either. They had certain business principles that were completely different from mine. One of which was kind of lying to the customer in certain ways. I wanted to be more open and honest, and they kept saying, "Yo, we're in South America. You can't be open and honest." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Can't be open and honest?" Listen, there's a strategy that we have to use with our customers, and when they get here, then we can sort of solve the issue. But let's get them here first. Let's lie a little bit to get them here first, and once they're here, we can then convince them. I'm like, listen, they already paid. We can't. But anyways, there's certain differences. So we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And couple days before the pandemic, they went to Argentina, and like the last thing they said to me was, "This hostel is done. We're finished. We should, start something else in Argentina." And I was like, "All right, like we'll start something else in Argentina." And then I had a couple of days alone with my ex-girlfriend, and I was thinking, "Yo, like, fuck this, man. Like, I can't do it anymore with these guys. I'm going to Colombia with her." So that's what I ended up doing. And I called them I was going to call them once I'm in Colombia, because I felt if I told them before I left, they would try and find a way to fuck up my trip. They're from getting to know them, they're intense. Like,
Cutthroat.
who knows? What's that?
Cutthroat.
Bro, they're very, very, very conniving, and they have a lot of energy and mad motivated. So I just didn't know what they could accomplish, so I just wanted to make sure that they didn't know. I wanted to get to Colombia, then I was going to call them. But because the pandemic happened, I couldn't go to Colombia. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. So they ended up calling me, and they said, "Yo, we knew that you were going to do this." So they felt like I betrayed them, like I fucked them over, which granted, I get that. I get that because I never told them what I was doing. I told them I was going to Argentina with them. And they found out from someone else before I could tell them what my real plan was. So yeah, great. I just said, "Listen, I'm sorry. Yeah, I fucked up. My bad." They hung up on me, and I haven't talked to them in 3.5 years. So me and my ex-girlfriend break up, and a couple months go by, and I was thinking, "Yo, I should say what's up to those dudes to sort of try and make sure that everything is like smoothed over now. Everything is good, because this happened so long ago, and I kind of feel like I need to maybe apologize just to make everything right." I really enjoy apologizing. I really enjoy making things right with everybody. I just do, and it's always something I want to do. But I knew I couldn't do that with my girlfriend because she really didn't like that, and she was completely against any sort of communication with them, especially because she thought that they were trying to fuck me as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I contacted both of them. They ended up breaking up, and it was just like, "Yo, what's up? How you doing?" A couple days later, one of them says, "I'm coming to Cali." I'm coming to Cali to see you. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, fuck, I'm tripping out now. I'm starting to like freak out a little bit. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? Right. I'm like, I don't want to be spending time with either of them. I don't want to see them. Why did I fucking message them? Why did I do that? Why did I put myself in this position? I thought I was past this point in my life where I do stupid shit like that. So I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? And when I was in that blissful state with the mushrooms, I saw it very clearly. I just have to do a video call with him and explain exactly step by step why it's not a good idea and why I don't want to spend time with you. And I just have to do it. So what became clear to me is that I'm gonna have to say, listen, I made you both think multiple times that there was probably some sort of possibility that we were going to have some sort of intimate relationship together, right? Because my immature behavior of wanting this sort of attention from you guys to make me feel like a stud that was occurring. That was occurring,
Yeah.
and I was
left
doing
the door
that.
open. Yeah, you
I
didn't
was doing
close the
that.
door. There was a little creak in there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's how I start the conversation. I realized that I did that. It's my fault. So what I have to tell you now is that I'm not interested in anything, right? Like, I'm not gay, and I know it doesn't. I was going to go into a joke, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm not gay, and I don't want anything between us. And what happened. But I don't think it's a good idea to like not see each other for 3.5 years after what happened and after my behavior to go on a trip together or you to come see me. It's just not a good idea, right? Like, because I'm single, he's single. It's just, and like when I was in that blissful stage, you've got to close
the door definitively.
Yeah, I have to. Yes. So I saw it clearly how I'm going to do it, what I'm going to say, and I'm just going to have to do it. I don't like doing shit like that, right?
That's the lesson.
Nobody does.
That's the lesson.
But I just have to be completely open and honest. And if I hurt his feelings, so be it. It is what it is. I can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a mad good realization for you, because you are a nice dude, and sometimes because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, you might not do certain things because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But when that probably is the only way to deal with a situation, that kind of makes sense. Like being nice and being like, oh yeah, no, this will be work. Like, I'm not interested in these guys, but just entertaining or being around them, so in their mind they can make out like, oh, this guy he's keen. They can tell themselves whatever story they want. So yeah, that's good. You, from what I just gathered, you just displayed a great level of ownership, which is a fantastic thing. But yeah, definitely close that door, bro.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good job. Isn't it funny though? I do like to laugh, like how competitive chicks and dudes can get, and even chicks and chicks. Like if you're a guy, you're with a girl, and then another girl comes on the scene, that chick can turn into just like fierceness, and vice versa. Like when you've got, it's like you're the piece of meat, and you got groups of dogs fighting over you, kind of vibe. But no, that's a good realization. So you will be closing that door. That is a good thing. What's one thing that you would do differently? And if we can keep this story to under 30 minutes, that'd be great.
No, that's what it was. That I have to be. It's very important to be open and direct with people from the beginning. I think when you're forming new relationships, I think there's probably boundaries that have to be set. So I think I learned that everyone needs to have boundaries. You can't be boundaryless. Otherwise you're going to get into problems, and then you're going to have to find ways to get yourself out of those problems or solve those problems. So for me, it's just putting up boundaries, and that's hard for me to do because I try to be a nice guy, and and allow everyone else to have boundaries and for me to tiptoe around everyone else's boundaries. But I've never been one to put boundaries up myself. So I have to do that.
Yeah, no, it's mad good. Definitely a very important thing. You got to put them up, otherwise you will sort of be at the will and control of others. Like if you don't put your boundaries up, someone else will put boundaries for you.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah,
but it's
mad
reality.
Good realization though. Mad good realization. Do you remember what genus or type of shrooms you end up taking?
No, they're the white ones with like the blue. I don't know if that helps. They have like a lot of I've only ever done those types of mushroom. I never really seen other kind, but yeah, it's just mainly white and like dark, but then lots of blue as well.
Yeah.
Does that narrow it down at all?
Sort of. But yeah, I don't know if it's all of the styles of mushroom, but that's typically how you differentiate a magic mushroom from a non-magic mushroom. Is they go blue when you bruise them. That's typically the indication that they contain the psilocybin.
Oh, that's from bruising.
Yeah. Well, when you say you pick it or you bruise the shroom, if it goes blue, that's an indicator that it's a magic mushroom, because the non-magic mushrooms typically don't go blue. I don't know if that exists for all of them, but that's the heuristic sort of that I remember and that I have in my head.
Right.
Cool. So you mentioned you were still sort of getting yourself back together. Like it was quite an intense experience. Largely, was that because of the sort of the negative aspect of the trip? Like that was quite taxing and draining.
Yeah. It was super taxing and draining. Like I was almost pulling my hair out, dude, at the restaurant. Yeah. It was mad uncomfortable, but I also wanted to get to that point because I know that blissful stage is heightened after such like a stressful trip, but I didn't think I was going to get like that bad because I was really overwhelmed.
Here's a post-rationalization for you. Possibly that was a good little lesson as well. Maybe reflect on the fact that you were in that situation possibly because you didn't put enough boundaries up in that circumstance as well, right? Like, because you were so willing to just go with the flow or whatever, you ended up getting into an environment, a situation that you otherwise wouldn't have chosen to go into. So maybe that's another good sort of takeaway about the boundaries, right? Like be very sort of, possibly take more control in curating and constructing those experiences. Or, again, I think there's that trust aspect as well. Like you're very trusting in that regard. So possibly, elicit your control and your influence on the situations more so. Because I think that would have helped to avoid that. But again, I'm like we mentioned, I don't think there are good and bad trips. I think they're all useful. If the trip isn't as desirable as you might have wanted it to be, there's a lesson in there somewhere. There's a reason why that's the case. But I just think that's an interesting thing. Just clicked in my head. I was like, oh, maybe that's another sort of reason is because you did go with the flow, you opened yourself up to going into an environment that you otherwise wouldn't have chosen.
That's a good call. That's a good call, man. Yeah. Yeah, because I was like a theme. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you go. Keep going.
That was sort of like a theme for me because Camilo, he doesn't have that much experience with mushrooms, and he took less. I think he took like 3 grams or something, but he kept looking for a destination. He kept looking for what to do next. And he's like, yo, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm like, yo, we're doing it. Like, just go with the flow. Don't try and control anything. Just let it take you. But then he got to a point where he's like, no, I think I'm dominating the mushrooms now, and it's a lot better. So I thought that was interesting because me letting it go into the flow got me into that state where I was really scared. But as soon as I overcame that, I felt like I was dominating the mushrooms in a certain sense, like what he was saying. So it was interesting.
So the other thing too is, so if you elicit more control ahead of time, like you mentioned about curating your environment better. Like you want to go somewhere where it's a little bit more private, a little bit more beautiful, serene, secluded, etc. If you elicit control early, like, and you go, okay, this is where I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to do it, because I want that environment to be the case, and I want to be able to fully just go with the flow there, and know that no matter how I go with the flow, it's going to be, safe, so to speak. By eliciting that control up front, you can then have that freedom to then go with the flow. Whereas if you don't elicit as much control up front, when you're in the moment, if you go with the flow, you could go with the flow into, places that might not be as desirable, so to speak.
That's a great point, man. Yeah.
So all in all, a great experience.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. It's always a great experience. I've been telling my family for maybe 15 years the benefits of doing mushrooms. I remember sitting at the dinner table with my family, like 15 years ago, when they first heard about me doing them, and I was explaining to them. And after I explained it all to them, they were not completely convinced, but they weren't looking at mushrooms the same way that parents might look at heroin or cocaine, for example, because up until that point, that was like the category of drugs for my mom, for sure. My dad a little bit less, but for my mom, right, is that even marijuana was in that category of heroin and cocaine.
Yeah, I think broadly, people's perception is changing over time. It is now. Like, I'm pretty sure in Australia there's psychedelic treatments for depression and things like that. So you can get prescribed this as a medical treatment. I know Elon, he's been big on it. He even, I think, came out like a week or two ago. Like there was some hit piece on it in the media about him being a drug addict or something. Like having he takes ketamine and he takes mushrooms, but like turns out he's got a prescription, and it's partially to do with some depression that he faces. Because I think he sort of played out a bunch of scenarios in his head about where the future can go, and he's not ignorant to how bad things could potentially get with AI and the control and all the rest of it. And so I think sometimes, he requires those things to knock him out of that viewpoint, right? That reference frame, to see that there are that there is this other possibility space of it being this massive benefit to humanity and society and the future of life. So again, I think it's very useful. They can be useful tools if needed. So this is your first, okay, so just last sort of couple of questions to wrap it up. How long in between trips is this for you?
Last time I did mushrooms was when I was in Canada 5.5 years ago, but I didn't do last summer. Oh, bro, maybe 7 years since I've done mushrooms, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've done LSD 3 times within the last 7 years, and I've done ayahuasca twice within the last 4 years. Yeah.
And just a quick little overhead, the difference between the three, just quickly from you, like what are the sort of main differences that stand out to you?
Okay. For me, mushrooms is a lot more emotional than ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is much more hallucinogenic. So you have to, I had to lay down when I did ayahuasca. I wasn't able to walk around because everything was moving so much and the colors were so intense that I wasn't able to walk around because I'd just fall over. So I had to lay down and I had to close my eyes because even having my eyes open, the visuals were so intense that I couldn't take it. But emotionally, it's much easier to go through an ayahuasca trip. From my perspective. LSD, for some reason, I find LSD the probably the easiest to sort of go through. There's obviously difficult moments when you're on an LSD trip. Sometimes I felt like I had to separate myself from the group or away from like something and just be by myself for a moment, just sort of recollect on what I was doing. But I always felt with the LSD that I was in somewhat control, but it got really, really, it would get really intense at moments. And the visuals are pretty intense too, but they're like more clear. The visuals are more intense, but more clear with LSD than it is with mushrooms. But yeah, I would say like the LSD trip is probably the most intense one. Mushrooms is probably the most emotional one, and ayahuasca visually would be the most intense. But I think LSD is probably the most intense out of the three.
And did you have any problems going to sleep after taking it? It's sort of like, like later in the afternoon, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very difficult to go to sleep.
Were you getting visuals when you tried to go to sleep?
No, I wasn't having visuals at that point anymore. I went to sleep at like 4 a.m.
Holy!
And so it was like all that was sort of over at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just had like energy?
I was out of energy at that point. Yeah. I had a really busy day that day. Like I was working a lot in the morning before I did them. And then I was out walking around all night. And then I didn't go to bed till 4. But in the past, yeah, I remember it's very difficult to go to sleep after doing mushrooms and LSD.
Yeah. For me, I found that more for the LSD, you get the intense visuals. So like you close your eyes and you just see like the kaleidoscope of whatever's happening. Sometimes it's Chucky dolls. Sometimes it's much more pleasant.
What about you? How would you rate the difference between LSD and mushrooms?
Look, I tend to agree with you. To me, the mushrooms are a lot more like, I don't know, in your body. Like you feel it's a whole body thing. You sometimes don't feel as like, I don't know, you feel a bit uneasy, so to speak. I agree. I think the LSD is a lot more visual for me, a lot more cognitive in that regard. But yeah, it's similar, but there are definitely differences in the way that you go through it. LSD would be a lot more visual. Psilocybin not as visual, but still with that cognitive. Like you mentioned, emotional, possibly a bit more emotional in that regard. But like, it's interesting too because the set and setting makes such a difference. Like they play such a role in that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot more. I don't know. I'm going to say this word geometric. It seems LSD seems to me to be a lot more geometric as opposed to psilocybin. Doesn't appear to be as geometric to me. But yeah, I think they both definitely have their place. And I do think that ego death can be such a valuable thing. Again, not everybody needs it. Not everybody would benefit from it or whatever. But I know for myself, it's been useful and it's been valuable.
Hell yeah, man.
So are you going to be planning another one of these soon, or you're good for the while?
In a year. I think I'll do like maybe once a year. I just remember the last time I did mushrooms was with you in Thailand.
Oh,
that was 6 years ago.
That was an experience, man. That was a mad experience.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun the whole time, actually.
Just okay, quick little wrap-up story. This is our bonus for our Patreon subscribers. And idiot IDIOT coin holders. It was a Magic Mountain, was where we were procuring these mushroom shakes from. And at the time in Thailand, there was a change in leadership. So the emperor or prince or king, or I can't remember the denomination for this person, but it was changing over, and he was quite set on not allowing people to do full moon parties, and he was trying to clean up Thailand's image or whatever. And so we decided, without knowing any of this stuff, that it'd be great to go to Thailand and do a full moon party and have the full experience with a friend of ours. And we got there, and this whole process was happening. There was increased police presence. They were cracking down on all these things, and it was kind of sketchy, right? Like they were saying that you could get jail time, and I never really wanted to spend time in a Thai jail. I don't think many people do. Anyway, so we were at Magic Mountain getting our mushroom shakes. Our mushroom shakes, and just as we got them, a police raid was kicking off. Essentially, do you remember that?
So when you guys went to go get them, I stayed back at the hotel. So I wasn't with you, but I remember when you guys came back, you said as soon as you were leaving, it was getting shut down. Like you guys got your shakes and then something was going down. So I wasn't there to see it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So all I remember is, we were getting the shake. Everything was chill. There was mad people up there. It was like a beautiful vibe. We're looking out over the ocean. Like you could see just endless ocean for days. Like the mountain was so high up. And it was beautiful. It was majestic. I was vibing on it because like obviously it was going to be a big day. We're going to have a great time. We're getting our shakes. And yeah, as we got them, as we were just about to leave, we hear all these sirens, and then everybody starts scattering. So then we make like boom, bust for it. I get on the scooter. I'm pushing people out of the way, like so we can get down the mountain first. And as we're going down the mountain, man, there's police on scooters and cars driving past us, going up to raid the place. It was sketchy. My heart was pumping, and needless to say, our friend's heart was also pumping because he was not feeling that.
Oh no, he wouldn't be feeling shit like that. No.
But yeah, that was a great time.
Oh,
that was an example of a beautiful experience. That was really, really fun and valuable. But we had a great set and setting. So like it was pretty much just us in a great resort, and then we were able to move. Like we had great music, we had good vibes. We had like food if we needed. We had drinks. We had everything we needed. And then as we sort of started to chill out after we had like good conversations, deep and meaningful connections, blah blah blah. We were able to just go down to the beach, kick the ball around, just shoot the shit. That was a great time. I like that experience. I like more of those experiences. Yeah, that's some good shit.
Thailand's magical, dude.
It definitely can be, guy. It definitely can be. Apparently, a lot more Russians are moving there. Apparently, everyone's bouncing from Bali, moving to Thailand. But, yeah, it does have some magical places for sure. Yeah, all right, let's call that a wrap, dude. Thanks for sharing your experience. Greatly appreciate it. We look forward to seeing an upgraded, leveled up, boundary enforcing Polska on the pod from now on.
Hell yes. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and listening in. Polska, if there's anything you want to finish with, let us know.
That's it, guy. That's
all
it.
Right.
We're good.
Peace.
Love you, bro. Peace.
Love you too, guy. Have a great week, day, weekend, day, month, night, whatever it is when you're listening to this. Bye-bye.